Reno Ichikawa and Kafka Hibino argued. Kafka blamed Ichikawa for encouraging him to give the defense force a trial. When a knock interrupted them, it happened to be the employer of Reno Ichikawa and Kafka Hibino who told them they got a new male arrival. In a hall filled with successful examinees, Reno Ichikawa, Kikoru Shimoniya, and a few others congratulated each other on passing the aptitude and fitness tests of the selection process. Additionally, they were conversing at the Defense Force's induction ceremony, while Minas Ashiro walked in to address them, marking the beginning of the introduction ceremony. Kikoru was chosen to speak on behalf of the new class, eloquently representing her peers. Minas Ashiro acknowledges Kikoru Shimoniya for defeating the destructive Honju, but Kikoru Shimoniya feels upset knowing that Kafka Hibino was the actual one who defeated it. She got angry with herself, she felt it was humiliating, and she questioned Kafka Hibino's absence during the induction ceremony. To everyone's surprise, Kafka Hibino enters the room. In a flashback, Minas Ashiro and other staff members of the board management discuss Kafka Hibino's exam results. Kafka Hibino initially failed the fitness and aptitude tests due to his low score. Hoshina intervenes, expressing his desire to admit Kafka Hibino despite his poor grades. He outlines his rationale and pledges to enroll Kafka Hibino as a cadet, offering to mentor him and give him more training. Kafka was enrolled as a cadet, which made Minas Ashiro tell him to sit out in the induction ceremony. Kikuro was glad to see that Kafka was part of them. Hoshino introduced Minas Ashiro as she addressed the new class about their mission in the defense force. Suddenly, Kafka spoke aloud, telling Minas Ashiro he was going to stand next to her soon. Everyone was surprised to have heard that from Kafka. Minas Ashiro gave him a punishment of 100 push-ups for speaking out of turn and disrespecting a superior officer. Kafka was surprised because he didn't mean to say that aloud, and Hoshina made jest of him. While he was doing the push-ups, Hoshina aimed to uncover Kafka Hibino's unique qualities, sensing that there was something unusual about him. He decided to keep close to him and find out what that was. Kikuro came to Kafka and asked him to come see her. Subsequently, Kafka Hibino, Kikoru Shimoniya, and Reno Ichikawa gather at a restaurant to discuss Kafka. Hibino's origins as a kaiju. Hibino gets the kaiju by eating it. Kikuoro is amazed to hear that. She concludes that Kafka Hibino is a glutton, and then they discuss what he should do with his abilities. Kafka Hibino begged Kikoru not to tell the defense force about the secret. Kikoru Shimoniya vowed to keep Kafka Hibino's abilities hidden, but warned that she would take action if he proved to be a malevolent kaiju. Later, combat power training was observed, led by Reno Ichikawa, Iharu, Kikoru Shimoniya, and the other newly recruited Defense Force soldiers. Reno Ichikawa's fire training exercise was completed at 2:35. His estimated unleashed combat power was 18%. Hoshino was impressed that Reno Ichikawa had grown in a short time. Iharu Furuhashi was amazed, so he decided to do better than Reno Ichikawa. Iharu Furuhashi completed his fire training at 2:15, and his estimated unleashed combat power is 20%. He was excited that he did better than Reno Ichikawa. Just Kikoru Shimoniya finished her fire training by 1:16, and her estimated unleashed combat power was 55%. Kafka Hibino completed his fire training at 6:39, and his estimated combat power was 1%. He exited and he chased Kikuro around. Kikuro wondered why he was excited when his combat power was 1% and hers was 55%. Hoshino called Kafka to inform him that he was never going to be a full officer at this rate and that he would be fired in 3 months. During the combat training session, Hoshina concluded the training session by ordering everyone to complete multiple laps around the perimeter 10 times, they complained, and then he extended it to 15. After Kafka Hibino and the others had fun in the bathhouse, Kikoru Shimoniya and other female troop members encountered Minas Ashiro in the restroom. Kikoru Shimoniya admired Mina's physique and inquired about her training regimen. Minas Ashiro graciously offered more information to Kikoru Shimoniya. Meanwhile, Kafka Hibino and the other male soldiers from the defense force are in the restroom. They discuss their aspirations and reasons for joining the defense force. Kafka Hibino was surprised to discover that Minas Ashiro had influenced the majority of them to enlist. When Kafka Hibino revealed to the men that he and Minas Ashiro were childhood friends, the men were so interested in the story that they asked him to tell them more. Later, Kikoru Shimoniya and a few female defense force soldiers stumbled upon Kafka Hibino and the others lying on the ground. She discovered that they were upset because they had spent too much time talking about Minas Ashiro in the sauna. All the soldiers and the newly recruited members of the defense force went for training and enjoyed themselves at the defense force training grounds. Later, Hoshina found Kafka Hibino somewhere conducting his study. He informed Kafka Hibino that since everything in the facility was recorded, he knew about what Kafka Hibino had said to the other troop members in the bathhouse. When Kafka Hibino expressed his desire to fight alongside Mina, Hoshina interpreted it as Kafka Hibino wanting to take Vice Captain Kafka Hibino's position. Kafka Hibino confirmed Hoshina's suspicion and placed the room's keys on a table. Hoshina then informed Kafka Hibino that he had 2 hours to come close to any officer and would also prevent him from stealing his spot. Just then, a bell sounded in the facility, signaling Kafka Hibino to prepare for his first mission. Minas Ashiro requested an update from Okanogi regarding the Sagamihara location. Okanogi provided Minas Ashiro with comprehensive information about all the events unfolding in that area, which was an emergency kaiju alert happening in Sagamihara. The citizens in the surrounding area were asked to follow JSDF orders and evacuate, including the evacuation process and developments involving the JSDF, Honju, and Yoju. Following this briefing, Minas Ashiro discussed the challenging situation regarding the Honju with Hoshina. To avoid violence, she suggested defeating the Honju at Sector Bravo. Minas Ashiro decided to handle the Honju, and she analyzed that Sector Echo would serve as the sniper point so that they would be able to target the enemies from alongside Highway 16. She declared that the operation would be designated at the Sagamihara Neutralization Operation. She wished all the officers best of luck. Hoshina went with the newly recruited officer on their first mission. Kikuro looked at Kafka Hibino. She could not still believe he was Kaiju number 8, but she believed that Kafka Hibino would not disappoint her. While they were moving, Ichikawa informed Hoshino that Kafka was about to throw up. Kafka was so nervous, and he ate too much. Kikuro threatened to kill him if he throws up. Hoshino's platoon got to the neutralized area, and they saw the Honju for the mission. Hoshin briefed the operation to the members of his platoon. Though Captain Minas Ashiro's unit would handle the Honju, the problem was that the Honju was creating a ton of Yoju. The neutralization area was kept deliberately clear of important infrastructure and critical transportation routes. The job of the newly recruited officer was to make sure no Yoju escaped from the area. The platoon with recruits will be placed at the very rear, which means they are the last line of defense. Hoshina asked if anyone had a question to ask. It was time for the recruit to show what they had on the battlefield. The JSDF Artillery Regiment Command Post, Civilian Evacuation and Command Post, constructed complete Okanogi received that all platoons and all JSDF forces are ready to go. 8 minutes before Captain Ashiro reached her position, Reno Ichikawa motivated Kafka Hibino. Kafka Hibino decided to prove that he can do the job during his mission. Kafka was feeling a different kind of pressure, but for some reason, he was incredibly excited. Reno Ichikawa asked that they make their first mission a big success. Yoju was sighted, and they were all set to attack. Kafka Hibino warned Reno Ichikawa not to die out there. Captain Minas Ashiro reached the sniper point. Okanogi pleaded that they lure the Honju to Sector Bravo and provide fire support. The JSDF Artillery Regiment Command Post initiated fire support for the defense force to defeat the Honju. Hoshino commended Captain Minas Ashiro for starting and showing her superiors just how good she was. Kafka Hibino was about to attack a Yoju, But the Yoju attacked him back because Kafka Hibino's compart's power was low. Kikoru Shimoniya defeated a Yoju she decided to play safe and blast anything that could be a weak point. She managed to defeat most of the Yoju, earning admiration from many of her co-workers, including Kafka Hibino, for her skills. An abnormal vital sign was detected, a rapid increase in heart rate. Meanwhile, Reno Ichikawa's team performed exceptionally against their respective Yoju adversaries. They made sure they were able to defeat the Yoju. Reno Ichikawa impressed his rival Iharu with his round switch strategy. He swapped out the burst rounds in his gun for the freeze round, which fits his style. However, Reno Ichikawa voiced his dissatisfaction with his strength and expressed a desire to become stronger so that Kafka Hibino wouldn't have to rely on transforming. Platoon leader Nakanoshima knew it was a good batch this year. Ihura had already taken down 6 Yoju, and he noticed Haruichi was a little slow. Haruichi told Ihura not to forget that he backed him up. Nakanoshima remembered Vice. Vice Captain Hoshina told her there were a few really good ones in which the average unleashed combat power of the recruits was higher than in most years, which made the guys at the top motivated others to do better. Okanogi observed that teams have verified that Sector Juliet was clear of Yoju, and all Yoju had been defeated. Ikaruga platoon advanced with Reno Ichikawa and Furuhashi at the forefront. Kafka Hibino heard that Reno Ichikawa's team and Iharu were leading, and he realized he was the one slowing them down, so he asked himself if there was something to help in killing the Yoju. Then Kafka decided to fight with his weapons. With his 1%, the suit he was wearing made it easy to dismantle the bodies of the Yoju, and he wondered if they could mass-produce these things. It would be nice if they gave some to the cleanup industry. Kafka Hibino explained the pretty standard structure for fungal-type kaiju. He informed Vice Captain Hoshina about the location of the Yoju core and his family's esteemed history of slaying kaiju. He observed how the captain and vice captain of the Defense Corps had received weapons tailored to their respective fighting styles. Hoshina instructed Kafka Hibino to prepare for battle again. Despite the Honju being defeated, many Yoju began spawning from its body. Despite Okanogi informing Hoshina that the recruits were tired, Hoshina insisted that this would push them to greater heights if they succeeded. Hoshina contended that Reno Ichikawa and Kikoru Shimoniya had the chance to become captains one day. Subsequently, Iharu and Reno Ichikawa unexpectedly encountered a random monster sweeper Inkir worker and queried what he was doing on the battlefield. The worker affirmed that he had loaded the reproductive organs inside most of the Yoju. However, he became infuriated upon learning that someone had destroyed them. Turning to Iharu and Reno Ichikawa, he demanded that the two tell him who on the Defense Force had uncovered the truth about his ploy.